So, this week we want to continue looking at our Under Pressure sermon series, and we are talking about Come Apart so you do not come apart. And we want to welcome again Dr. Jill Lee Barber as we have this conversation. So, Jill, one of the things that I think is so prominent in our society, in our culture, is that we feel like we always have to be on the go. We always have to be doing something. Why is that the case?
Well, I think that there has become a culture of busyness, and such
Mm,
that we value busy people. We value how many sports your child is in, or how many if they're not only doing these sports, but they're in this club or that club, or how many projects a person can be on. Even vacations seem to need to be busy and scheduled, and so you get just the right photo moments of all of your experiences that you've sort of curated and collected for the world to see that you're cool.
mm.
And so uh, I think that there's a sense that that's what makes life worth living is adding items to one's resume and adding photos to one's curated collection of things I've done or things my children have done. I
I
think
can see that. I can see how that's possible. And what role does society plays in all of this?
honestly, I think there is a large role that society plays, and then you have to say, well, who is society? I am, you are,
All of
he is,
us.
all of us. So that expectation, we can't really blame it on a nameless society. It starts here. Each of us has that the expectation or the thing that we ask other people about, the thing that we value. I think there is this pressure um, in society not to miss out on anything.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
FOMO, yes, fear of missing out, and reinforcing other people for all the things that they're doing.
Hmm.
Um,
So, what's the value, if there is any at all, in setting time to be apart, to get away from all of this, and just to come apart so that we don't fall apart? What's the value in that?
I'm going to answer a personal answer now.
Go right ahead.
Because I worked a large job, as you know, at the university with 55,000 people over, mental health, physical health, all kinds of areas, recreation, nutrition. And I had Jordan, and raising her, and she was a busy teenager and lots of things going on, taking care of my parents, then taking care of my partner, lots of things happening. And what I'm going to say is that I I didn't allow for rest,
Mm.
and I stayed busy and was always the drumbeat of you can do one more thing. Um, and I think what happened to me in my overly busy life, I got cancer. And I'm not saying that busyness caused it, but I am going to say that cancer was a wake up call for me. That was in 2018. And it really, you don't have to get cancer to have a Sabbath.
Mm.
But for me, I was so busy and doing so many things that I didn't stop and start attending like yoga weekly or doing my walking until I had cancer. And I wouldn't want that to happen to others. For me, just it just came to my mind that if we don't make a rhythm of rest, if we don't create those boundaries, that insidious busyness can make us literally sick. And I know it from my own life. And I don't think we should have to wait for cancer to allow us to come apart, as you say.
And one of the things I've said over the years, and I know that there is value in taking time apart, because the Sabbath is the first thing that God called holy. If you
Yes.
read through scripture, it's the first thing that God called holy, to take time to rest. And if God could have rested, which God doesn't need to rest, but if God could have rested, and I believe in setting an example for us, how much more for us to take time apart. Jesus himself, you remember the story in the Gospel of Mark, after healed Peter's mother in law. Early in the morning, he got up and he went apart. The disciples had to go hunting for him. So there is value in taking time apart. After the disciples had actually gone and Jesus had sent them out and they had gone out and they had healed, they were so busy when they got back, they didn't have time to eat. And Jesus said, come apart, you
Yes.
know, to rest. And so there is value in it. And I'm
Yes.
hoping that we will all practice that. Sometimes we have what seems to be really good excuses, but we are all called to practice Sabbath.
I'm the queen of those good excuses. I'm going to tell you, I can think of all the reasons to stay busy and not to take Sabbath until my body actually stopped me. And
Hmm.
so I use the personal example because I want others to know that. Um, yeah, I'm definitely the queen of doing that. Um, there's something else I was going to say about that. And it was about when you said Jesus took time to rest. Um, even therapists, I'm a psychologist, have therapists, and we should. Okay, don't trust us if we don't do our own work. But my therapist said to me during the time I was trying to figure out how to be less busy, she said, be careful that you're not arrogant. And she said, arrogance is what leads us to busyness.
Hmm.
So I offer that. Like, I'm not the only one who can do something, I can ask for help.
That type A people that I talked about
Yes.
earlier today.
Yes. So she was saying to me, like, be careful that you're not arrogant. Remember, others can do it. You're not the only one who can do it or do it right. You don't have to stay this busy. This is a choice. And it was actually very wise counsel that she gave me. I also like the writer Wayne Muller, who says that, like a path through the forest, Sabbath creates a marker for ourselves
Hmm.
so that if we're lost, we can find our way back home.
We can always come back to
We
it.
can always come back to it. So no matter how busy we are, we can always choose to stop.
Well, thank you so much for these 4 weeks of sharing with us. You have shared such wisdom, such knowledge, and we are thankful. And I pray that all of us at St. Mark will learn from these few weeks. Thank you.